The night my boyfriend proposed to me, I overheard a conversation between him and my best friend. "I'm getting married, do you regret it?" he asked. Tears welled up in my best friend's eyes, then she kissed him. "I regret it." I saw shock, confusion, and ultimately delight in my boyfriend's eyes. It felt like a long-awaited revenge. It felt like wishes fulfilled. As he reached out to embrace her, he locked eyes with me in the corner. Instead of walking away, I took a step forward and slapped him. My best friend instinctively tried to intervene, and as I raised my hand to hit her, my boyfriend stepped in front, his eyes pleading with me. "If you must hit someone, hit me, not her." Chapter 1. In the 5th year of being with Chase, he prepared a grand proposal for me. As he slipped the ring onto my finger, I smiled and said yes. But my best friend Jessica's eyes turned red, tears streaming down her face. Her gaze shifted from me to Chase beside me, forcing a smile even uglier than crying. "Serena, I envy you so much, so much." I patted her back, jokingly saying, "I envy you too, with a new boyfriend every day. I'm stuck with just one and already getting married." Surprisingly, Chase remained silent. His eyes fixed on Jessica. She continued. "Chase has been with you for 5 years, if only." Before she could finish, Chase grabbed 2 bottles of wine from the table, cutting her off. "Let's toast." Jessica took the glass he handed her, smiling through tears. "Serena, why do some people forget others so easily?" I thought she was talking about all the boyfriends she had gone through. So, I comforted her with a smile. "You just haven't met the right person." She drank one glass after another, sadly shaking her head. "I did, but I missed it." Then she got up unsteadily and went to the bathroom. I was about to go with her when Chase, who hadn't spoken all this time, spoke up first. "Seems like she's had too much to drink, I'll go check on her." I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Chapter 2. After a while, they hadn't returned, and I started to worry, so I followed upstairs. The bathroom was empty, but there was a small terrace upstairs. As I turned to leave, I heard Jessica's quiet sobbing. Subconsciously, I turned back and went up. At a glance, I saw Chase and Jessica standing together. Chase's hand was on her head, as if comforting her. "Isn't this what you wanted to see? You were the one who rejected me back then, telling me Serena liked me." When he said this, there was no emotion in his eyes. But I clearly saw a different kind of intimacy in his actions. "As you wished, I am with her now, getting married soon. Do you regret it?" With a buzzing sound, my mind went blank. I felt like my feet were suddenly weighed down as if with lead. But the next moment, I saw Jessica's eye sockets slowly turning red. She lifted her head to look at him. "Chase, you jerk, did you propose today just to provoke me? You clearly know this day is the one I rejected you years ago." Chase remained silent. And as if she had made a big decision, Jessica tiptoed and kissed him on the lips. "But I regret it." Tears fell, and she started patting Chase's chest. In Chase's eyes, I saw shock, confusion, and finally delight. It felt like long-awaited revenge. It felt like wishes fulfilled. Something heavy seemed to be pounding in my heart, wave after wave, causing a painful tug. A bitter sensation rose to my nose, uncontrollable pain in my eyes. Then tears streamed down in large drops. This day was also the day Chase said he wanted to be with me. I thought it was romantic. From the beginning to the proposal, exactly 5 years. I never expected that it was a day he carefully chose for revenge against her. How could he comfortably stab me so deeply on what should have been my happiest day? Chapter 3. In front of me, my boyfriend of 5 years, and my best friend of 8 years. Both betrayed me. When Chase reached out to hug her, he locked eyes with me in the corner. At that moment, Jessica also turned to see me, tears staining her face. And Chase seemed a little panicked. What was he panicking about? The person he liked was responding to his affection at that moment. He should be happy, right? But then, what about me? Was I just a witness to their emotional journey in these 5 years? If they hadn't forgotten each other, why pull me into the tangle of their emotions? After the heartache came boundless anger. I didn't turn and leave, didn't pretend nothing happened, didn't shout out loud. Instead, I took a step forward and slapped Chase hard across the face. His face turned to the side from the impact. When I was about to raise my hand again, Jessica subconsciously tried to stop me. I didn't say a word, raising my hand towards her, but the next second, the slap didn't land on her face. Because my wrist was grabbed by Chase. He stood in front of her, eyes lowered, and said to me, "If you want to hit someone, hit me, not her." Chapter 4. In a daze, I remembered some past events. At the high school graduation farewell dinner, I gathered the courage to confess to Chase. He had had a few drinks at that time, and as I approached, he glanced at me indifferently. "Are you good friends with Jessica?" "Yes." Then he said, "Serena, do you like me?" The secret crush of a teenage girl was exposed. My face turned red, twisting my hands, trying to say something. Chase spoke. "Then let's be together." "Huh?" He ignored my shock, stood up, and walked towards me. "So, will you take me home?" It turned out it was just because she had been rejected by Jessica that day. And then because I was a good friend of Jessica, he chose me. Later, I and Chase attended the same university, while Jessica was at the normal university just a street away from us. At the beginning of our relationship, Chase always subconsciously asked if we could invite good friends to hang out together. So, I invited Jessica to join us. Therefore, he only used being with me as a reason to naturally see her. During our university years, it seemed like the three of us were always together at many significant moments. Watching movies together, attending concerts together, celebrating birthdays together, walking through youth together. Even other friends would comment on how good our relationship was. I would jokingly put my arm around Jessica's neck and tell them she was my wife, and Chase had to step aside. In my heart, she always came first. And yet, this best friend, who held the top spot, was coveting my boyfriend when I was about to get married. What's even more tragic is that my boyfriend also liked her. How ironic. Chapter 5. I forcefully threw the ring in my hand at Chase, grabbing his collar and hitting him. "Why would you treat me like this? What do you take me for?" Tears uncontrollably streamed down, my voice hoarse. How did they manage to keep me completely in the dark about the situation? And how could they keep thinking about each other while pretending to be good friends with me? What was I in Chase's eyes during these 5 years? One was my boyfriend. One of them is my best friend. How dare they? Jessica cried as she came to pull me. "I'm sorry, Serena, I rejected Chase back then. We are not married yet, and I don't want to miss out. Can you let him go for me?" I looked at her, and when Chase wasn't paying attention, I slapped her. "Are you shameless?" I didn't expect to hit her. Jessica covered her face, tears streaming down, saying, "Can't I love him too? Is it a crime to love someone?" My mind was about to go blank, almost hysterically shouting, "It's not a crime, but the two of you are despicable." Chase picked up the ring from the ground, took a step towards me, trying to pull me. "Serena, calm down." I avoided his hand, looking at him word by word. "Chase, we're done." Chapter 6. I turned to leave, but my feet were swept out from under me. Chase picked me up around the waist. He looked a bit panicked. "It's not over, listen to me explain." I slapped and kicked him hard, my legs flailing and screaming. "Let me go. You bastard, Chase." But he still firmly held onto my legs, not letting me move. Jessica stood in place, tears streaming down her face, shouting at him, "Chase." As if he hadn't heard, he carried me all the way, finally pressing me into the car. "Chase, you get out of here, let me get out, let me go." He locked the car door, driving off without waiting for me to speak. When I got back home, I felt like I had just been through a fight. As soon as I entered, I went straight to the bedroom to pack my things. Opening the suitcase, I started throwing clothes in one by one. Chase stopped me. I can't explain. I shook off his hand, looking at him coldly. Don't touch me, I feel dirty. But he continued on his own. I admit that my reasons for being with you were not pure. In high school, I did have a crush on Jessica, and it was indeed out of revenge that I chose you. But later, I slowly fell in love with you, Serena. I love you now. So, because you love me, should I be grateful to you? He licked his lips, hastily explaining. That's not what I meant. Just now, I was just a bit impulsive. Seeing her cry made me feel a bit relieved, which is why I said those things. I pinched my thigh hard with my fingertips, forcing myself to stay calm. So, if she needs you next time, will you just comfort her in bed? He frowned. There's no need to say things so harshly. Seeing that I ignored him, he added. I won't have any contact with her anymore. Oh really, have you developed a split personality, being affectionate one second and cold the next? Outside the window, there was a sudden clap of thunder. You see, even the old man doesn't believe in scumbag's words. After saying that, I continued to pack my clothes. He wanted to stop me, but he didn't dare. Just standing there, he whispered. Serena, I love you. I have nothing with her. Can you give me another chance? Give you another chance, so you can plant the next green seed directly on my head? Don't be like this. He was a bit at a loss, his eyes turning red. Don't go, please. You already agreed to my proposal, we can get married soon, let's pretend that nothing happened tonight, okay? Chapter 7. Okay? How dare he shamelessly say such words? What does he take me for? Am I someone he can be with casually, then casually discard? Am I the kind of person who can forgive him even knowing he betrayed me with my best friend? Suddenly, a lightning strike outside. Then pouring rain. I calmly looked out the window and said. Chase, you hurt me. I was wrong. I was wrong. He repeated this sentence over and over. I looked at the photo of us hanging in the center of the bedroom. My heart felt heavy. That throbbing pain in my chest. The air couldn't come out, couldn't go down, making it unbearable. It was really too painful. I looked at him, then grabbed the remote control from the bedside table and fiercely smashed it into the frame. With a crack, the glass shattered, along with the photo inside falling down. I took the scissors nearby, went up and cut the photo into pieces, then cut it again. Chase suddenly rushed over and hugged me tightly, pressing me against his chest, as if comforting, as if promising, his voice low and hoarse. Serena, I love you, I only love you. I pushed him away, fiercely gripping his neck, wishing I could strangle him to death. Crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. As if all my energy was being drained. Tears falling drop by drop on his face. He didn't resist, just silently looked at me. His face slowly turned red, then purple. He still didn't say a word. Then I let him go. I wiped the tears off my face, took a deep breath, expressionless. You hurt me, so I hurt you just now, Chase, we're even. He suddenly panicked, don't. Then he grabbed my hand, desperately trying to put the ring back on my finger. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. I wanted to push him away, but it felt like I had used up all my strength just now. I just silently watched him trembling as he put the ring back on my finger, his voice barely audible. Chase, I don't want to see you, you make me sick. And that's when Jessica walked in. Chapter 8. I forgot, she has the fingerprint to our home security lock. It's ridiculous, when I helped her record her fingerprint back then, I never thought that this person would one day try to steal my boyfriend. She was still wearing the thin strap dress from earlier. Now completely soaked, her curves subtly visible. Hair sticking to her face, lips turning pale. She stood at the doorway, looking at Chase and me, her voice trembling. Serena, don't blame him, it's my fault, I'm despicable. I looked over, calmly saying. Jessica, is it really worth it to act like this for a man? Her eyes shifted slightly, hesitating for a moment before speaking. I don't want to miss out, I've been with him for 5 years. Fine, very well. I coldly chuckled. It turns out friendship really can't compete with love. For so many years, I watched her go through boyfriends one after another, thinking she just hadn't found the right one. But in these 5 years we spent together, she was regretting every moment she rejected Chase initially, and let Chase end up with me. But if it weren't for the two of them, I would have just been sad for a while after my confession failed. In college, I would have probably moved on, forgotten, and found someone who genuinely liked me, to have a clean and straightforward relationship. No revenge, no lingering attachments. Even if in the end, they got back together, I wouldn't have seen any problem with it. Not like today, where the two most important people in my life have deeply wounded me. I clenched my fist, trying to control my voice. Then I wish you both everlasting love, forever carrying the label of betrayal, living in darkness, shunned by others. Chase didn't realize tears were streaming down his face. He reached out to pull me close, but I raised my hand and gave him a slap, the sharp edge of the ring grazing his cheek. A deep bloodstain ran from the corner of his eye down to his jaw, still bleeding. Jessica screamed and rushed over, grabbing tissues to help him clean up. I took the opportunity to grab my suitcase and leave. Chase suddenly spoke. Serena, besides here, do you have another place you can go back to? Chapter 9. My steps halted. He truly knew how to hurt me the most with his words. I never imagined that one day we would exchange such hurtful words. Nor did I ever think that Chase would pour salt on the deepest wound in my heart. In the past, when Chase and I argued, I could go to Jessica's house to vent. Then we would lie in a blanket and reminisce about our high school days, recalling youthful memories. Those were good times. Having a lover, having friends. But the two people I loved the most are now the ones who have hurt me the deepest. Without hesitation, I harshly threw the ring down, grabbed my suitcase, and left. When the door closed, neither of them came after me. I heard Jessica sobbing. Chase, you're bleeding, should I help you stop the bleeding? And I didn't look back, not even once. Chapter 10. At midnight, I stood at the doorstep, unsure if I should go inside. My mother passed away when I was in junior high, and my father, after I entered college, cautiously asked if he could find a companion. I had overlooked the fact that it wasn't easy for him to raise me alone. I understood his emotional needs and realized he couldn't live alone for my mother's sake forever. During my freshman year summer break, he brought a lady to meet me. She seemed kind and smiled a lot. When she went to the restroom, my father secretly asked if it was okay, and if not, he wouldn't pursue it. I looked at the wrinkles around his eyes, chose not to say the cruel words, and instead smiled and nodded. Later, Aunt Lynn moved into our home. The house was well kept, with fresh flowers and warm meals. Day by day, my father grew happier, and from that moment, I felt like I was the extra person in our home. I knew I couldn't be so selfish, but I still couldn't accept a stranger intruding into my life so openly. So, even though I attended a local university, I only came home during winter and summer breaks. Chase, knowing about my family situation, rented a house off campus during our junior year, so that I would have a place to go when I didn't want to go home. It's the house we live in now. His family is wealthy, and he eventually bought the house we live in. That day, he placed the property deed in front of me, embraced me, and said sweetly, "Serena, I am here. I will give you a home. Even if we argue in the future, I will leave, and you can stay here." At that moment, I was deeply moved, truly moved. But when I peeled back the layers of protection around my heart to show him my most vulnerable side, I didn't expect to hand him the knife that he would use to hurt me in the future. One knife after another, piercing the heart until it bleeds. I leaned against the doorstep, hugging my knees, burying my head in them. Perhaps there was a psychic connection. Shortly after, the door opened. My dad, in his pajamas and shorts, looked at me. "Serena, what's wrong?" he asked. Chapter 11. Aunt Lynn also came out, dressed. The living room light turned on. Seeing the suitcase beside me, my dad asked. Had a fight? I shook my head and then nodded. We broke up, completely. Without asking why, my dad said. Hungry? Want some food? Then he gave Aunt Lynn a look. She hesitated for a moment, then smilingly said. Are you hungry in the middle of the night? Aunt will cook you a boiled egg. I stayed silent as she went into the kitchen. My dad sat beside me. This dad, who wasn't good with words, patted my shoulder. Serena, you still have your dad, you still have a home. Tears, just stopped, began to flow again. I choked out the story of tonight to him. I thought he would say the usual parent thing, that lovers fight and need some time to cool off. But my dad's eyes turned red. It's Dad who didn't help you see the truth. Serena, Dad has always been on your side, come home. Just then, Aunt Lynn came out with a steaming boiled egg, smiling at me. Serena, have something hot to eat. Let's not be upset. You're so good, Serena, deserving of someone better to love you. I drank the soup spoon by spoon. The rising steam made my eyes sting. Turns out, my family still loves me. That's nice. Chapter 12. But that night, sleep didn't come easily. In my dreams, sometimes I saw Chase's face. Back then, we were so happy. The first time I brought Chase to meet my dad, he was so nervous he didn't sleep the whole night. In truth, I knew my dad hadn't slept either. The next morning, Chase went out early to buy many gifts, and when he arrived at my house, he busied himself in the kitchen helping my dad and Aunt Lynn. To impress, he cleaned our house spotless. After having a few drinks with my dad, he even solemnly promised. Uncle, rest assured, I will treat Serena well for a lifetime. In these years of living together, he has indeed been good to me. He did indeed fulfill his promise to give me a home. At home, he, who was like a young master, willingly washed his hands to make soup for me. Later, after we graduated and got jobs. In the morning, he would make breakfast and wake me up, then drop me off at work on his way, and in the evening, he would pick me up after work. Sometimes we would go out for a nice meal. Sometimes we would stroll through the supermarket, buy a bunch of groceries and cook at home. Sometimes when I watched his back while he cooked, I would think it would be nice to grow old slowly while holding hands with this person. It seemed like a good thing. I remember one night when I couldn't sleep, and he, who was asleep, pulled me over and hugged me tightly. Then he kissed my face in his sleep and mumbled, "Hug, my wife," under his breath. At that moment, he was treating me like a treasure. But then there was Jessica's face. In high school, feeling insecure, she knew about my family and brought me boiled eggs every day. She would take me to her house for meals on weekends. Her mother would make us lots of delicious food. We would lie on the bed, listen to music together, watch TV shows together. Outside the window, there was the sound of cicadas. Inside, there were the laughter of young girls. We exchanged diaries, spending weekends together. We hung friendship locks at the temple, wishing for eternal friendship. In the dream's conclusion, the two of them hugged each other and said to me indifferently, "I am the one who is unnecessary." Shocked awake, my back was covered in sweat. Chapter 13. When I stepped out of the house, it was already close to noon. My dad said Chase had been sitting at the doorstep since early in the morning. His eyes were dark with fatigue. I didn't know if he had come last night or this morning. Dad sent him away. "I know you don't want to see him, so we won't look at him," my dad said. Aunt Lynn had already prepared the meal. The pork rib soup smelled delicious. "Serena is up, come and eat. After you finish eating, on the weekend, do you want to go fishing with Dad?" "Okay." But when I opened the door, I still saw Chase. He was sitting dejectedly at my doorstep, and when he heard the door open, he quickly stood up. There was a band-aid stuck on his forehead. That meant he allowed her to take care of him afterward. "You left, why are you back?" My dad shielded me behind him. "Don't bother our Serena. Uncle." Chase's gaze fell on me, but all he received from me was a cold look. I'm here to apologize. His voice was hoarse, not knowing how. We don't need your apology. If you truly care about our Serena, leave now. My dad actually had a temper. Not kicking him out was already the greatest kindness he could show. Chase looked at me helplessly, carefully pulling out the blue velvet ring box from yesterday. I turned my face away. I heard him say, "Uncle, I proposed to Serena last night." She agreed. There were many witnesses. I just made her angry. I came to apologize, hoping for your forgiveness. As he spoke, his eyes welled up again. This is a matter of principle. Even though our Serena is easygoing, she also has her limits. You, playing both sides, a man like that is not welcome in our home. Upon hearing those words, Chase painfully took out his phone. He opened various chat logs and laid them out in front of us to explain. Uncle, I didn't. I've been with Serena for 5 years, treating her as a normal friend, not crossing any lines. But you lied to me, didn't you? I stared into his eyes. Chase, can you swear that when you got together with me, you genuinely liked me, or was it to get back at someone else? He fell silent, only speaking after a moment. But nothing happened between us. Yes, nothing actually happened between them. Why was I still holding on to this? What he didn't know was, in every memory we shared, Jessica was involved. I didn't know if his heart had ever wavered in the past 5 years. But those memories, once shining like the sun, warming the moments of my life, were now gathering into sharp knives, piercing deeply into my heart. The promises of the three of us growing old together, which I once took pride in, now seemed utterly ridiculous. Can we pretend this never happened just because nothing happened? They both betrayed me, why should I forgive? I tugged at my dad's sleeve, shaking my head. Dad, let's go. Chapter 14. Aunt Lynn only told me when she was accompanying me to help my dad get the folding stool that my dad had wanted to beat Chase with a broom earlier in the morning. But then, slowly, tears welled up in his eyes, asking him not to come see you again. She said. After your dad closed the door, he sat silently on the couch for a long time, feeling like he hadn't protected you well. Then he said. Serena is already very sad, can't make her sadder, let me smile at you like he does, so you won't think of unhappy things. Just feel sorry for your mom, for not taking care of you well, for making you suffer. After listening, I cried uncontrollably. The heartache was realizing that my dad had always loved me silently. Aunt Lynn held me in her arms, patting my back gently, comforting me. Good child, it's good to cry it out. When we were fishing, my dad deliberately found topics to talk about. I knew he was afraid that if the atmosphere quieted down, I would start thinking too much. Not wanting to make them sad, I cooperated and chatted with him all day. On the way back, a friend sent me 2 screenshots of moments from social media. One was a post by Chase this morning, outside my house. Caption, in this lifetime, only love one person. And there was one from Jessica, at Chase's house, a fleeting glimpse of a band-aid, but that profile, even if turned to ash, I would still recognize. It was posted last night. Can we not miss out anymore? The friend asked. Is it really not my imagination? Is there something going on between you three? I replied. Yes, we broke up, my ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend hooked up. The friend sent an emoji, saying. This is outrageous, didn't he just propose yesterday, how disgusting. I typed. It's all in the past. She sent a few hug emojis, saying. Serena, darling, your good fortune is yet to come. Yes, letting go of the wrong, only then can you meet the right one. What doesn't kill me, will only make me stronger. Chapter 16. I posted a message in my social media circle. Back to being single. Under my post, were other friends' engagement updates from yesterday. A grid of 9 photos. Short videos. I've never been bombarded with so much PDA in my life. Serena, you better be happy. So touching, sniff, sniff, 5 years of love, congratulations Chase on a successful proposal. If anyone says they don't believe in love anymore, I'll slap this video on their face. Now, it all seems so ironic. I randomly clicked on one, only to see Chase inside, his eyes not on me. Instead, they were deeply, deeply looking at Jessica beside me. I remembered how last night he watched me chat with Jessica without a change in expression. What kind of feelings was he juggling between the two of us women? At that moment, he was thinking about being together with me for a long time in the future. Or perhaps he was finally successful in his revenge against her. Now, it doesn't matter anymore. I don't want either of them. Just after sending it out, my friends sent messages one after another. After all, last night, such a grand engagement ceremony was prepared. So many people witnessed our love. They all thought I was joking. But, this is the reality. I replied to each one, not giving them any face. Why should I be generous? They were the ones who wronged me. I did nothing wrong. Chapter 17. However, Jessica still messaged me in the evening. Serena, can you please fulfill our wishes? I don't understand, she clearly had everything. Why did she have to go looking for Chase of all people? Is it that she can't stand to see me happy? But she was my best friend. Finally, I suddenly realized something I didn't want to admit. Perhaps Jessica never truly saw me as a friend. Otherwise, how could she do such shameless things? Suppressing the urge to curse, I replied to her. Fulfill? Jessica, don't you both feel disgusting and repulsive? She quickly replied. But Chase liked me first, he confessed to me, I didn't tell you, when you two had just started dating, he even told me that if I wanted, he could be with me immediately. I didn't tell you at the time, after all, you two were already together, I didn't want to make you sad. Oh, should I thank you for that? Jessica continued. He got together with you to get back at me, if he broke up with you, he wouldn't see me anymore. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Both of them are despicable. Every second I see you both, I feel sick. I won't fulfill your wishes, I want you both to carry the guilt towards me, carry the blame of everyone, and never see the light of day. Then I blocked her. For a man, I never expected someone to abandon their own friend, not even caring about their conscience. I finally understand and awaken. In Jessica's eyes, perhaps I was never a friend. Just a backdrop for her beautiful and popular sidekick. Just something she didn't want, she could throw it into my garbage bin. For so many years, when I poured out my sincerity towards both of them, treating them with all my heart and soul, they just thought, I'm really gullible. I'm really foolish. I didn't even notice the undercurrent between the two of them. Since they wanted to be together, I just won't go along with their intentions. Chapter 18. This incident quickly spread in our circle of friends. I am very frank. Because I am the victim. Our mutual friends, one after another, ended their relationships with them. A few friends couldn't bear to watch. After all, such a twisted incident, it was the first time they had seen something like this in life. They anonymously posted this experience on a certain platform. In less than a day, it had thousands of likes. Thousands of comments all criticizing them. I don't know how Chase saw it. One day when I was returning home from work, he blocked my way. His eyes filled with pain. Serena, do you hate me this much? Hate? You're not worthy. He tried to explain. I really didn't have anything with her, why won't you believe me? His voice trembled a bit. Have I not been good to you these 5 years? Haven't you felt it? Yes, these 5 years, he had indeed been very good to me. But feelings, one good deed from you can't cancel out one bad deed. The hurt has already formed. It will scar. It will suddenly remind me one day how painful that experience was at that time. It will turn into a sword, piercing each other in every future argument. Chase, when you lied to me, you knew one day I would find out, why didn't you think about the consequences? One lie needs countless more lies to cover it up. He fell silent. I answered for him. Because from the very beginning, you felt that you and I could never have a future together. I tore open the words he was unwilling to face and say, and laid them out in front of him, word by word. You thought I was just a pawn, to be discarded when no longer needed. You never thought you would fall in love with me during our time together. I admit I was a jerk before, but Serena, I never wanted to part ways with you. I really wanted to marry you. I wanted to have a home with you. I interrupted him. You're a jerk, a scumbag, trash. Yes, you can hit me, scold me, anything, just don't leave me, okay? I'm not a love-struck fool, no one would stay with trash. Save those words for Jessica. There is no Jessica. After saying that, he tried to reach out to pull me. Coincidentally, my dad, who had just returned from grocery shopping, saw this and immediately drove him away. Chapter 19. For a while after that, Chase would wait for me downstairs at my company every day. He would follow me home, keeping a distance, knowing I didn't want to talk to him. It was really annoying. I told my dad. My dad, furious, called the police. After making a report, my dad walked over, looked at the dejected Chase, and said, "Don't come looking for my daughter again." Chase slowly lifted his head, looked past my dad, and gazed at me, his eyes turning red. Without saying a word to him, I grabbed my dad and left. But on that same evening, Jessica sent me a picture from a different phone number. Serena, calling the police, are you crazy? The picture showed Chase in a dimly lit KTV. Their hands were overlapped. It was so meaningless. I just felt so pitiful. Jessica had become such a despicable person. I didn't reply, and when I was about to block her again, Jessica sent another message. Are you really that heartless? If you don't want to be with us, we'll keep warm by ourselves. She must be the crazy one. I immediately blocked her again. Later, a friend told me that it seemed Jessica went into Chase's house that night and only came out the next day. Someone heard them having a heated argument. I wonder what it was about. Jessica posted a crying flower in her friend circle with the caption, "Even if the road ahead is thorny, I still choose to embrace you again." She seemed to have mastered the alternative literary style. But I didn't care at all. A friend asked me if it was infuriating and if we should show them some colors. I remained silent for a while and shook my head. If we get entangled again, we will only sink deeper into this quagmire, creating more connections and entanglements. I don't want to become hysterical again, it's not worth it. Sometimes, not responding is the most hurtful. Chapter 20. After a period of calm days, our house started receiving frequent deliveries. There were even baby items among them. I glanced nervously at my dad. My dad quickly distanced himself, saying, "Why are you looking at me? How old is your auntie?" I pulled out a baby bottle. Yesterday it was clothes, today a baby bottle, what else have we received? My dad sorted through the deliveries and said, "There's also a baby walker, baby toys, and today's, I don't know, somewhere around, getting old." Then Lynn auntie beside us frowned and said, "Could it be that kid?" The whole room fell silent. After that police report, Chase didn't show up looking for me again. But every other week, flowers would be sent to my office. Snacks. I shared the snacks with my colleagues. The flowers were just thrown away. I didn't want any contact with him. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. I just didn't expect that he still wouldn't give up, sending so many strange things to my house. I took the scissors and opened the box. It was a completed Lego set. Inside was a handwritten letter from him. "Serena, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I've been having a hard time these days, a really hard time. Every time I close my eyes, all I see is you. You held me back then and said, 'Chase, can we have 2 children in the future?' I said, 'Up to you, but I don't want you to endure the pain of pregnancy.' You said, 'Pain is also an experience in life. You want to experience different stages of life, prove that you've been in this world, leave a mark.' You said if we grow old together, we would have many memories in our old age. Even if we run out of things to say, we can recall little things from our youth to evoke those feelings. Why did I lose you? Without you, no one will experience those things with me. What's the point of living without you? Serena, it's my fault for lying to you. Please, can you not ignore me? Weren't we happy for over 5 years? Didn't you enjoy it too? I promised to give you a home, and I've fulfilled it all. You said you loved children the most, so I bought all the baby stuff for you. Can we forget the past and start anew? My dad noticed me spacing out and patted my shoulder. Dad respects your thoughts. I put away the paper and tore it up. Dad, you know me, I've been stubborn since I was young. Once I decide on something, I won't change. So, since we broke up, I won't repeat the same mistakes. Chapter 21. Sometimes friends chat with me about their updates. Jessica pursued Chase every day, got fired due to poor performance. Chase is still working at his family's company, not affected much. Just his spirit isn't as high as before. They're not together. After my friends found out about these things, they asked me, "Will you forgive them?" I shook my head. My heart isn't strong enough to forgive the harm they caused me. Once, I selfishly and brainwashedly thought that my dad abandoned me, and sharing life with others meant I wasn't his priority. But the thought of having a lover and the best friend made me feel content at the time. But half a year passed, and I fell in love with the days of bickering with my dad and cooking with Aunt Lynn. Simple yet real. I used to love Chase deeply. My dictionary once defined sisterhood. And now, thinking of them inadvertently, it feels like a lifetime away. Sometimes I wonder if I hadn't confessed to Chase back then. Or if I hadn't accepted Chase's confession. Would we be different now? But there are no ifs. Perhaps, that's just life. Chapter 22. Before Chinese New Year, Jessica came to find me. I didn't meet her. But she didn't give up and asked many friends to persuade me. I finally met her. It was at the coffee shop we used to love going to. It had been a long time, and it was surprisingly awkward. When she saw me, she nervously said, "Serena, I'm sorry." I didn't say anything, just looked at her coldly. What's the use of apologizing now? I will never smile and tell her it's okay, like before. Sorry, I was foolish. I shouldn't have fallen for the wrong person. I still didn't respond. If she truly considered me a friend, she should have suppressed her feelings for Chase from the start. Never let me find out. But in the ultimatum, she abandoned me and chose Chase. Can they really live with themselves, hurting me while doing frivolous things? She never thought about any of that. As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. Am I the sinner? Now, you're the most carefree one. Only Chase and I will forever live in betrayal. I couldn't hold back anymore, furrowing my brows. Aren't you confident? As long as you're willing, he would be with you. Now that you've got what you wanted, are you happy? She lowered her head, sobbing. I was deluded, it's all my fault. Will you never forgive me? Yes. During this time, I occasionally think of the happy times we spent together. I said, "You have to be my bridesmaid in the future." And she agreed. Sometimes I really don't understand, she clearly had so many boyfriends, why did she have to fall for Chase again? Is it that which we can't have that always stirs us up? Maybe it's also my fault for being too dull. Thinking that having a best friend and a boyfriend together is the happiest thing. But being rejected and secretly loved, two emotionally complicated people can't become friends peacefully. She ruined my proposal. Oh no. It takes two to tango, they both ruined my happiness. But, if forgiveness and gratitude don't contradict each other, I still thank them for making me realize in time and seeing the way forward. As she was leaving, she stopped me. My family introduced me to a suitable person, I'm getting married soon, could you go see Chase? He hasn't been doing well this past half year. I picked up my bag and refused. No, I don't want to get involved with my ex. Jessica, teary-eyed, apologized again. Even if you don't believe me, Serena, I hope you find happiness. No need, I just hope to never see you two again in this lifetime. Chapter 23. Chase came again. Early on New Year's Eve, he was waiting downstairs in the neighborhood. Every year at this time, I used to bring him home to have dinner and a drink with my dad. Perhaps it was too conspicuous, or maybe it was because of the upcoming new year, my dad let him stay for dinner. He stood at the door, his cautious and pleasantly surprised expression unable to hide. After a few rounds of drinks, my dad looked at him. Chase, do you still often visit my daughter? Chase hesitated, set down his chopsticks, and sat up straight. Not that often, uncle. Just occasionally. Sending something over to be noticed. My dad set down his wine glass and spoke firmly. You two have broken up. This is not appropriate. Don't bring any negative influence to our Serena, she will be getting married in the future. The speaker had no intention, but the listener had an interest. Chase's eyes turned red, voice trembling. Uncle, sometimes I just miss her too much. In an instant, my dad got angry, slammed the table, and roared. If you miss her, why don't you go find her? What about the promises you made when you first came to our house? You said you would treat her well for a lifetime, you said you wouldn't do anything to hurt her, and then what? You got involved with her best friend. Chase struggled to explain. We are not together. My dad ignored his explanation, stood up, and said. Then why did you hurt her, why treat her like this? Serena is someone I've raised since she was little, even I can't bear to say a word against her, what about you? You did something so excessive, why should she forgive you, tell me? With that, he smashed the wine glass, the pieces instantly scattered on the floor. After today, don't come back. Don't come here to cause trouble for me, to cause trouble for my daughter. Chase also stood up, choked up and trying to explain something. My dad waved his hand. Go, this is the last time I see you. Chase looked at me, I kept my head down and said nothing. Aunt Lynn went to open the door, with an attitude ready to show him out. Chase finally wiped his eyes and looked at us. Uncle, please don't be angry. I'll leave first, Happy New Year. After he left, my dad hugged me. My dear daughter, in the new year, we must completely bid farewell to the past. My eyes were sore, and I nodded. Chapter 24. After the new year, I relearned how to drive. In my spare time, I would take my dad and Aunt Lynn on trips around the area. My dad also inherited the extravagant hobby of old people, buying a long-barreled camera equipment. He studied and pondered every day. I thought he was going to take pictures of flowers and plants. But every time we came back from a trip, he would post photos of me on his social media. Having a daughter at home, elegant and graceful. Oh, so cheesy. Today, my daughter made me go jogging to lose weight. Everyone look, am I fat? You're not fat, it's me who's keeping you good company. A family picnic, my daughter's cooking skills are improving. Oh, except for the fruit platter, that was my doing. My daughter says my photography skills are not good, but I think I'm doing pretty well with her. It would be even better if you didn't make me look like I'm 3 feet tall. Aunt Lynn occasionally tells me that my dad has been happier since I moved back home. One day, I accidentally asked him why he agreed to let me live together with Chase at the beginning. My dad just held my hand and said, Dad prefers to see you happy rather than anything else. I hugged him, tears welling up in my eyes. With you both, I am very happy. Home will always be my warm harbor. Chapter 25. A year later, I heard from a friend that Jessica had a whirlwind marriage and divorce again. Jessica asked a friend to tell me that she was sorry. I didn't respond. Chase also had a friend relay a message, saying he would wait for me forever in the same place. Still, I didn't respond. My friend shared his social media account with me and chuckled. Once the child dies, they come for milk. Once they leave, they realize their mistake. Shameless. I clicked to take a look. On the day of his proposal, he posted a photo at 3 a.m. The biggest wish in my life is to walk with you forever. The day I didn't meet him, he was repenting. I am the dumbest person in the world. When I posted on my social media, he took a screenshot. I will wait for your forgiveness forever. The day he blocked me. I am trash, I don't deserve you. The day he called the police. If getting drunk could make me forget, I'd rather stay sober forever. In a Lego-built scene. You used to say, this is so stress-relieving, but why have I been working on this for so long, yet miss you more and more? I admit I felt a bit like crying, not for him, but for the years I devoted wholeheartedly. I admit that during those 5 years, Chase really did love me. But I also admit, his heart wasn't mine alone. I just became the most important as time went on. After that, even without Jessica, there might have been Jenna, Julia. Once trust collapses, everything is lost. Even if we try to salvage it, some things cannot be undone. In this tangled relationship, even if I cried myself to sleep at night, I still kept my head held high with pride. Because I am still young. Because I woke up in time. I will meet other people. I will continue moving forward. Just, on that path, there will no longer be Chase and Jessica.